Hey, what's going on, boys? It is day number 22 of reading through the book of Deuteronomy. Today, we're going to be looking at a pretty short passage that is going to cover two sections about some continued laws that are being applied for the Israelites as they are receiving the land that was promised to their ancestors. So, yesterday, we kind of touched a little bit on this first section titled Various Laws. And one thing that I was able to pull out from this was really something that a lot of us kind of overlook sometimes. And it's this. Verses 1 through 3 kind of describe it all for this whole section that runs till verse 10. But Moses is saying here, if you see your fellow Israelites' ox or sheep straying, do not ignore it, but be sure to take it back to its owner. If they do not live near you, or if you do not know who owns it, take it home with you and keep it until they come looking for it. Then give it back. Do the same if you find their donkey or cloak or anything else they have lost. Do not ignore it. So, what's happening here is we are being told that we should not ignore. The Israelites are being told that there may come a time where you're going to find maybe some animals that are going to appear lost, and it's your job to return them to the rightful owner. It's our job to guide the lost, guide the confused. Do your best to return what was lost and guide the lost to their leader. And I think this applies more than just to the animals that we may see lost or physical objects that we may see lost. I think this applies to people in general. There's going to be constantly times where people in your life may seem like they have it all together, but often they are the most lost and most confused, most distant they are in their life, and they don't know what to do. And it's our job to direct them to God. It's not to say that God can't reveal himself to those people, but what we are called to do in this life is to be a guide and be a leader for others, because people know that they need other people to grow, and they want to seek wisdom and knowledge, and the only way they can do that is with the help of others. And I believe that as followers, our job is to not necessarily just say, I'm going to say Christ is my Lord, but I'm also going to say, if I see my brother or sister in Christ that's down, I'm going to do my best to get them back up, get them back to where they need to be, return them to where they need to be. Because a lot of us stray so far from God, and then when we stray out, we always think that, God has turned his back on us. But no, it's the opposite. We have turned our backs on God. And we need some guidance. We need people to help us. We need people to guide us. We need people to find us. We need to be found. And there's plenty of people out there. I promise you, there's plenty of people out there that will help you. People that will find you where you're at. God knows where you're at in life, and he sends people into your life to redirect you, to change the direction of your life, and to show you the ways that you should be going. The second section is pretty interesting. I didn't make any highlights in it, but to kind of sum it up, it's called marriage violations. And it runs till the end of the chapter, so from verse 13 all the way to verse 30. And so marriage, we'll talk about it real quick, but marriage in the Old Testament, and really leading up until almost it somewhat still happens today, was a covenant that was made between a man and a woman, and the man would have to go out and find this woman and seek her father's grace, and she would have to be a virgin woman, and that they would not be able to procreate until they were married. Some might know, they're waiting until marriage, as some might say today, but there is some kind of laws set into place that if one of these things were to break, if the woman were to find out, if it were to be found out that the woman was not a virgin when she gets married, or if in some cases, the man, it even talks about in the beginning, verse 13, it says if the man takes her as his wife, and he dislikes her after sleeping with her, he questions her if she's really a virgin or not, because basically what would happen is, if she was a virgin, that they would both love each other and they would both be willing to live their lives out together. But if she doesn't portray that for him, then he's not going to feel that, and he's going to question, like, well, is this woman really who she says she is? And it kind of just goes on, and it even says at some points that if I do find out that she's not a virgin, that they would stone her. And there's more that it talks about, and I'm really glad that this stuff isn't things that we do today. We don't stone people just because they made some mistakes. But it even talks about how it's not okay for a man to sleep with another man's wife. In other words, don't cheat. Don't cheat. It doesn't get you in there. Cheaters always lose. Cheating does not make you better than anybody else. It does not. And it even talks about some things that we hear about in today's world about, if it's found out that a man rapes his wife, that he needs to pay up. It says that he would have to pay, I believe it's 50 shekels, shekels of silver, which was their kind of form of currency at the time. So all in all, with this section, while I'm not, formally familiar with it, I can just say that, a marriage in my eyes, how I can describe it is, between a man and a woman, and it is meant to be an everlasting covenant as you two are the other halves. They say that I believe that the marriage is the most dynamic duo on the earth, because you are having two people of not obviously the opposite sex, but really the opposite lifestyles. Men and women are different for a lot of reasons, but they're also the same as far as, they want certain values together. They want to raise a family. They want to love. They want to give. They want to serve. They love God. They put God first. But most importantly, there's those physical differences. A man is stronger, is going to go out and he's going to protect, and the woman's going to be his emotional support. I believe that, the man is the head of the house, and that everything, is under the man, and that the man's job is to take care of everything, make sure everything's functioning, and the woman's job is to be his emotional support him, raise up the kids. And it's not to say that, the woman can't take that role, but when you have this kind of pattern going on for a period of time, you'll start to see this more success, and you won't have to worry about the fact of, oh, well, this woman that I married, however many years ago, I don't think she's worthy of my life anymore. Like, that's where you have to make that commitment. And I believe that when our time comes to committing to that individual, for the guys out there, when you're committing to your future wife, or for the girls to your future husband, you have to be willing to understand that this isn't just a person that you're sleeping with every day, that you're going to sleep with every day, or a person that you're going to have dinner with every day, or a person that you're going to talk about work with every day. No, this is a person that you're going to live your life with every day. That you have to make choices. Not only do you have to consider yourself, but you have to consider the other person as well. So it's twice the amount of effects. And so you have to understand that there's going to be thoughts that are going to come in both of y'all's heads, but that's where you talk about it. You talk about it, and that's how you grow. Yeah, you may get into some arguments and fights sometimes, but learning, you have to learn. Get those hard things out of the way so the easy things will come naturally to you. That's the way God works for us in our lives. He places the hard things first in our lives, and if we can push through the hard things, everything else follows with Him. When we give our heart to Christ, everything else follows along. It's not about changing your physical, aspects on the outside, or changing, routines that you have, but it's giving your heart. When you give your heart, everything else will slowly kind of branch out. The heart will change, and it'll start to flow to the rest of your body, and that's where you start to see that change. That's where you start to feel that difference, and that's when you'll start to notice things differently. You won't ignore the little things. You won't have to worry about a certain person making fun of you or judging you. You'll love others the way that Jesus did. As one of the things I always say whenever I'm praying in the circle of trust at my F3 groups is, help us to exalt into others as you have exalted into us. Jesus has laid out everything. He put his faith. He believes in us. And it's our job to return that back to him. And it takes a lot of hard work, a lot of strength. Again, we're not perfect. We're never going to be perfect. But we can be good. We can be great. And the only way we can do that is by placing our faith in Christ and understanding that things are going to be hard. And that's just how life is. And there's no cheats. There's no shortcuts. There's no easy way outs. It's either yes or no. And that's where we will finish off for today. We go to read today's daily prayer. We are on August 23rd. Today's title is called Committed to Him. And the verse is Psalms chapter 37, verse 5. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in Him, and He will act. God, I desire that my ways would be in your hands. Imagine being perfectly guided by the Almighty. That would be such a relief. It would make my life so much easier if only I had a relationship with Jesus you have with your Father, Father. That is my desire. I struggle to get there. What does it take for a person like me, with a good heart but sinful, to really follow you like Jesus did? God, I want that. I want you to act on my behalf because my ways are committed to you. So when we commit our ways fully to God and trusting, again, how can we exalt into others as God is exalted into us? How do we do that? Well, I believe it starts with realizing where you're at, finding out where you're at in life. What have you been doing at this time? What are some things that you have noticed in your past that have led you down dark paths? Identifying. I think identification is a very great step. And obviously prayer. Prayer is one of the best things you can do, because that is probably the closest thing we get to having a physical conversation with God. God hears everything, and He will answer your prayers when we start making those changes, when we start building ourselves up, disciplining, and repenting and changing our lives. That is today's word. I hope that you guys have a great Saturday, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Peace out, boys.